Hello, welcome to another episode of Mega Manga Monday. I am Jason Hahn, and today we're talking about Berserk. Oh my god, we're getting to talk about Berserk again. I'm so excited. And today we're talking about chapter 368. It still feels unreal. I'm glad that Berserk is coming out in a more consistent basis. We're not getting it weekly. Hell, we're not even getting it bi-weekly. But at least every month, hopefully we're going to have new Berserk to talk about. And this chapter is called The Devourers. We had some returning monsters, and we got to see the story kind of move ahead a little bit. But I'm not going to talk about it all by myself, but if you're curious, I am Jason Hahn. I'm a writer for ScreenRant.com, and I happen to write a lot of video game related stuff. But I'm a huge manga fan, so we started Mega Manga Mondays to talk about new chapters of stories we love. And today, I got a couple buddies with me to talk about the new chapter Berserk. Andrew, how you doing, man?
I'm well. I'm Andrew Firestone. I am a comics writer. Do some TV for ScreenRant.com and writer of the It's About Drugs, obviously, blog about music on Reddit.
Excellent. And we also got Steven.
Hey, yep, my name is Steven. I'm a comics writer for Screen Rant, mostly writing about manga and other things, as well as Berserk, which we're talking about today, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, about every other comic is on break this week, so I was a little surprised to see Berserk come out, and pretty excited. I wasn't anticipating waking up to the message of "Hey, new Berserk today," so that's always a happy feeling. But it was also a pretty good chapter. I mean, we kind of got to jump away from what Guts what was going on with Guts, and I am a big fan of Roderick. We got to go see what is going on the other part of the island, and we learned not a lot of good stuff. Definitely not a lot of good stuff. It's kind of giving me flashbacks of back when they were fighting Magnus, and I think they even bring it up in this chapter. But it's when right before Griffith's like rebirth, a whole bunch of just terrifying blob monsters came up out of nowhere and just started devouring people. And this lovely home of Elfheim is. It's not looking good for the people of Elfheim, but we got some pretty awesome action with Skull Knight. We got some heartbreaking panels of Guts. Really, we just got a bunch of stuff to talk about. So, what was some stuff about this chapter that really stood out for you guys?
I'll just say, I'm probably reading too much into it, but I just really thought it was fascinating the way that Skull Knight was explaining, those blob monsters that were coming. Like it almost creates the impression, like what Griffith is doing is wrong, but it almost justifies what he did to an extent, just because his whole persona as being the savior of not just humanity but demons as well, and creating a world where they can live together in peace. Like Skull Knight is saying that these creatures that are coming here are actually the ones that are sustaining all of Skellig Island, and he even goes out to say that they are basically the true lords of the island. So in a way, it's like what Griffith is doing bad. Like he's taking Casca and all that stuff, but his action of doing that in turn released these monsters, and it creates that image of that, he's liberating their world and giving them back the land that belongs to them. I just thought that was kind of fascinating because it kind of adds to this whole persona of Griffith as like he's this really horrible guy, but sometimes his actions are perceived positively. So I thought that was interesting.
Oh yeah, I mean that's something that I just kind of they picked up, and I was just like, is he really referring to all these blob monsters? Like, I wasn't 100% sure, so thanks for clearing that up. But what'd you have, Andrew?
I think that, so there's a chapter which he originally wrote, Mira wrote and drew, and then he took it away. He took it out of continuity, in which the god of all the world is, I can't quite remember the name of it, but it's like essentially a void that that's just darkness and hatred, and it consumes, and that's all it does. And I think that the logical conclusion that we're led to believe is that all of the magic in this world of Berserk is based on this evil, this like horrible desiccating magic, and all the other stuff which is like not as evil magic, like the fairies and the elves and like all the wonderful creatures that are going to probably not live very long on Skellig Island.
Yeah.
They came later, and they are a response to that. So I don't know. I think that if those evil, horrible blob monsters were so nice, Stephen, then they could easily, talk to the people before, desiccating them and consuming their essence in a violent, horrible fashion. But I don't know. I don't really know anything.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think you know a lot, man. I think you should be nicer to yourself. But it kind of goes into the commentary. I mean, we got pretty deep into some conversations on our last Berserk podcast, and I feel like it can resonate even further here because if that all stands to be what Steven is saying, and all of these terrifying gelatinous creatures are actually the ones that are rightfully supposed to be here on this island, and they've been suppressed by the wonderful bright magic of the elves and the stuff like that. So it's supposed to be looked at as a good thing that this is returning back to the way it was. Well, it's just like, well, you could say the same thing about Earth, like we're just a spinning ball with some life forms that have been alive for a while, but really the natural state of the universe mostly is cold space with rocks flying around. So, I mean, you could also say the same thing there, just like, oh, destroying our planet would just kind of help the natural flow of things go back to it. And just like, well, no, we want to survive. We like these happy elves and we like this happy magic and stuff like that. So it's kind of.
I think that you are making a very wide. Your hubris is showing when you don't understand that the laws of causality is that all the happy centaurs and the elves and the witches, they're all just going to be victims to the horrible black blobs because it's the blobs world and we're just living here.
Yeah, my hubris. Yeah,
your hubris against the blobs.
We must fight against that. Oh man, I'm trying to quote the the poem that they use in the Christopher Nolan Interstellar thing. We must rage against the darkness, but I can't think of the exact wording. But insert smart quip here.
Indeed.
So I mean, but yeah, I mean that's kind of the consistent. I mean, the whole through line of the series is like struggling against the overwhelming idea that everything sucks and kind of making our way through it. And this chapter, I think one of my favorite comments actually was on the bottom of the chapter after I read it is, on this month's episode of A Man Needs a Break, this man continues to not get a break.
Yeah, Jesus. I was thinking about that too. The idea that like, so there's I'm not sure if, okay, so the concept of evil, it's called the idea of evil is the name of the god of the abyss in Berserk.
Oh.
But that might just be a fan name. And like it's interesting to talk about it, and I think we should talk about it now. But I was thinking about the point of the story where we're at, where Guts is like actually getting tired, and it's like you think about it, he hasn't had a break for like a year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Then again, we kind of don't have we weren't with them like every single minute of every day while they're on the boat. But I mean, also just he doesn't seem like much of a day sleeper, but that seems to be the time when Guts should be resting because during night he's consistently having to fight off devils and demons and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, I've thought about this too. I was wondering, because this whole time, especially over these years, especially after the last time we saw Guts and Zod fight, they were kind of matching each other blow for blow. Like he wasn't doing any lasting damage on Zod, but he also wasn't taking any mortal wounds. And I mean, Guts has been through a lot since that fight on the mountaintop, and especially with him getting the Berserk armor. I was really thinking, oh man, he's gonna take out Zod easily next time he fights him, because he's definitely better than he was last time. And I feel like these last couple chapters are just accentuating really how tired he is, or how much he hasn't improved since then. So I'm almost thinking, like, I was obviously thinking like what happens next, and I think he's gonna have to go after Casca, but we've got Skull Knight there too. I'm almost thinking it's going to be one of those things where just like, you're obviously not strong enough to take them out. So I'm hoping this leads into possibly like a Skull Knight training Guts, something to help him get stronger. But yeah, guy needs a break. But he hasn't really had a break, especially after being able to take care of Casca. But I don't know. He's got to get back up to his prime form, because I mean, the strongest we've ever seen him was that when he first donned the armor and took out or fought one of Griffith's demon generals.
Well, I would say when he was fighting Shiva, and he had to team up with Zod. That was really like the crazy thing. But I mean, even then, I mean, like the Berserker armor, I mean, it pushes him to the limit, but then there's also the other thing where it has that more metaphysical impact on him. Like the Skull Knight is, saying the more that you use it, the more the more of your humanity that you lose. So I mean, there's also that mental toll as well, in addition to all the physical crap that he's always going through. So there's that as well.
I mean, I think okay. So my honest take on it is that his battle against the Sea God is why he's like feeling like this.
Oh yeah, that was the most recent. Yeah,
because like, keep in mind, every single time he's in a battle, it's always one of these situations where when he's just good enough, he like comes back there, and he has Puck's fairy dust to heal him, so that helps. But at this point, the battle with the Sea God and the way that it was vibrating his body and got into his like ears and stuff, and he like had to, he was deprived of air for a really long time. I think that the weakness that he's showing right now is because of that. And also, like, he did just like cut through like a big, unless that wasn't his cut, but I think it's hinted that when he cut through the Earth's crust on Skellig, he created that huge canyon that he's in right there.
Oh, I didn't read that way at all.
I thought it was Griffith. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured it was just everything breaking apart from Griffith kind of unleashing everything, and
well, he could have contributed to it. I mean, I don't see why not. It could have been a combination of both for sure. But actually going back, I'm glad you brought up that last battle, just because I remember, when he was battling that sea monster, that was probably one of the few times, except when, ironically enough, because it wasn't against demons, the most helpless I ever felt, ever since he battled the 100 soldiers by himself during the Golden Age. I'd never felt as hopeless as I did during that time. Like, that was that was one of the few times when, like, I don't know if Guts is actually going to make it out of this alive. Like, that was definitely a moment where we saw him the most vulnerable we ever have. So that does, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, that he's still suffering from that, because that was a pretty helpless situation.
I mean, do we have a time frame on, like, was that immediately before they got to this island? Because
yes, it was not that long before they got to the island. I can't remember the number of days, but it was something, I believe it was like 18 days or something like that. That's the number that goes to my head.
Okay, I gotcha. I mean, it still kind of stands. I was definitely anticipating Guts to be able to, hold his own a little bit better, especially against Zod. But Yeah, I don't know. The story's got to go on. Our writers obviously have a plan on where they need to get Guts to go to, and I am almost curious if this is the last we're going to see of Griffith and Casca for a long time. Because I'm wondering if they're just gone, and we're going to be with Guts and his journey to get there, and let's go ahead and start that anxiety of like, oh man, hopefully Griffith doesn't kill Casca off screen, and then we get there and he's just like, you're already too late. Like that would that'd be pretty disappointing. But I mean, especially with everything we talked about in our last podcast too, just the narrative juiciness that we could possibly have in front of us from Griffith taking Casca to his followers, especially with any conversations between Casca and his mind reader lady. Was it Sophie? Was that her name?
Yeah.
Sonia.
There we go. Thank you.
I knew it was an so something.
Because I mean, that could completely shift the dynamic with Sonia. Kind of reading Casca's mind and seeing really the full picture of what Griffith has done in his past. But to hear more about that discussion, definitely check out our last Mega Manga Mondays discussion on Berserk, because we kind of went through his rankings. We're deciding like if somebody's going to betray Griffith for Guts' side or his purpose. We came up with some good theories on that, so definitely check that out. But yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say, especially in this last panel, that they have, well, it's not the last panel, but Zod, Griffith, and Casca are out of there, and I don't see any way for them to be able to stop them at this point. But not without us getting some heartbreaking panels of just, it's one of the most helpless panels I think I've seen of Guts, like, because he's not filled with rage and he's not like, you know, tearing off his arm to get to his goal. Like, he honestly has the look of like loss, and just like it's him reaching out. I'm not, the website I'm reading the chapter on doesn't have it broken down, so I can't say specifically which page it is, but it's just Guts reaching out to Casca as she's flying away, and then we get to see the kind of a white hawk fly towards a branch of the world tree that, according to this last panel, is erupting from Skellig Island. And I'm not sure what that's going to turn into, other than a big old tree, probably. But yeah, we've got our boats loading up, and we got people trying to escape.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like just I'm glad you mentioned that whole scene where, you know, Guts is looking all helpless, because I couldn't help but think back earlier on. The only time that, you know, Casca has been captured like this was during the conviction arc with Mozgus, and I ended up, you know, rereading that chapter 155, when Casca, or she was known as Elaine at the time, her alter ego, if you were, like Isidro or whatever his name is, like he you know, informs Guts that Casca has, you know, is gone, and Guts is filled with so much rage that, you know, he almost hits the kid, and that's like a big deal. Like, he actually grabs him, and it's just the fact, like, even though like the Isidro, or however you pronounce it, you know, even though he's strong, he's just a kid, and it just kind of just shows like how losing Casca can have such an effect on him. And it just really, the juxtaposition of, you know, that anger of the last time he lost Casca to now is pretty intense. You know, just because, I mean, in the last few issues, you know, or I could say chapters, like, we've been seeing Guts moving past his hatred of Griffith, or wanting to, and then we see Griffith, and he's suddenly filled with this profound sense of anger and fury that we haven't seen from Guts in a long time, and he basically loses it. And now seeing that shift of utter helplessness despite all of that is pretty profound. I mean, it's just pretty remarkable. You'd think that he'd be still living off of that fury that was consuming him just one chapter ago. It's quite a flip, and it just shows like just how much of an influence Griffith has. And it's also interesting too, because I mean, even though he's a completely different person back in chapter 150, it's like at the time when Casca was captured, she was a lane, so she was much like just more helpless than Casca is now. I mean, right now we have Casca, who is a strong woman, even though seeing Griffith again causes her to fall unconscious, but she's still Casca, like a really strong woman. And the fact that now Guts feels more helpless than he did when Elaine, who was completely like just like she couldn't take care of herself, even with help. Like the fact that he feels more helpless now than he did then is pretty telling. It's just pretty powerful shift in character.
Well, I mean, and I was looking to see how many days had passed since the Sea God battle. I can't find it. What I thought of that is it's just like after all this time of constantly getting, like working as hard as he can and like trying to protect Casca and get her back to, herself, and like, as you said, the repeated imagery of her getting captured by Mozgas, and constantly having to see her be like a victim, and then just having to see it one more time.
Yeah.
I think that's like what it's just the psychological toll of constantly having to see these things that you just can't bear seeing.
Well, I'd say it's so much worse now too, because I mean they just got here and they just got her sanity back, and not only that, but it wasn't something where somebody came to Guts and said, "Hey, Casca got captured," and he's like, "Oh man, how could you guys let that happen?" Like it literally happened right in front of him, and he had several opportunities to fight and to stop it, but he just was powerless to do so. So I think that this instance is so much worse than any other time, because he had that taste of like everything's gonna be fine, everything's great. And that's kind of something that I feel like
I mean, she was unable to
comparatively to comparatively to his life for the past while, but I
don't know. I mean, because like at least with Griffith, we know, or it's very unlikely that Griffith will do harm to her or kill her. When Casca was captured, it was like 100% that she was going to be tortured and sacrificed because she was already, she's basically a witch, or that's why she's being captured by Mozgas.
She's not a witch.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, at least now, it's unlikely that she's going to be killed, but it's like.
To add to your point, I was thinking like, what one thing that you were bringing up that like, oh, she's Casca again, like, and Casca is like a strong warrior and somebody who can take care of herself. I think that one part of it that is being implied is that even though that's true and that's something Guts obviously loves about Casca, he constantly has to see her in a situation where she is a victim and she cannot exercise this kind of agency that you're talking about. And I think that kind of kills him too.
No, yeah.
Well, because the woman he fell in love with was the Casca that Steven's referring to, and I hate, well, it's another thing that I'm really hoping that they don't just off-screen her character until the faithful reunion. I'm really hoping that we get to see more of, Casca the way we know her, because we only got to see 1 or 2 chapters before she passed out both times. I mean, she passed out when she looked at Guts, and she's also passing out anytime she's around Griffith. But I'm really hoping that we get some time with her not being passed out, and having the agency, and hopefully even trying to escape her captors. But I'm also just dying for her to have some conversations with Sonya. I'm really hoping that happens, and we hopefully get to see. Obviously, we're all dying to know like what Griffith's plans are. Do another eclipse or sacrifice, more people to attain an even higher level of godhood than he's already done. But hopefully we get some more elaboration on that, and it's not just all off-screened and we only follow Guts and company. But we'll see. I mean, we have a whole new batch of writers, but we've got a plan in place. But with that being said, I don't see how anybody's getting off this island, especially with the last couple panels here. But what you got, man?
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, at least, if Studio Gaga is gonna, stay true to Miura's original style, is that we can rely on the fact that like the past couple hundred or so chapters have been going back and forth between Guts and Griffith, and I'm pretty sure that they'll keep that momentum going. If they don't, that would be kind of a real bummer. Just for obvious reasons. But like you're saying, yeah, I'm really excited to not just see Casca's interactions with Sonya, but also Charlotte, just because she still is pretty critical to Griffith's control in his current state. Because he wouldn't have been able to get where he is now without her saying that she's betrothed to him, and that without her naming him the Supreme Commander or whatever it was, like because there was that bit when he was trying to convince all the nobles. They're like, well, that's all good and true that you're here and you're saving us, but you can't do anything, or you can't name yourself anything unless there isn't a member of the original Midland royal family. And then that was the moment, where Charlotte comes out like, oh, no, I'm here, everyone, and he's my hubby, and he's going to be the supreme commander of everything. So
yeah, but I kind of feel like Griffith has transcended that. Like, even if he didn't have her, and there's like, oh, well, you have no right to the throne. Do you see Griffith being like, you're right. Shit.
Well, the thing is, though, he still has to rely on a lot of these noblemen to get the things that he wants done. Like, he still has that board that he speaks with, and whenever they veto anything he says, like, they have that power. And
yeah, and
the only reason why they're able to get through is when he is able to convince them otherwise. So I would say, if he loses them, he would have to take it by force, and then he would lose the support of everyone. Like, he can force them, obviously, but he would be portrayed as an evil dictator rather than the savior, which is so important to him.
Well, yeah, especially with the last conversation we had with his board meeting, too. Like, he said all the right things, and you're like, man, Griffith's actually a great leader.
He's dope. I want him to be our president.
Yeah. Yeah.
Open that up.
But I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah. We have some information that everyone might want to hear before voting Griffith to be their president.
There's something you should probably know about him.
But yeah, kind of just scrolling through the chapter. I thought we had some amazing panel work here.
Oh yeah.
It honestly, I almost want to say some of the best panel work we've seen since we had some new artists take over. One panel kind of really stuck out for me, though, is Zod with Griffith on his arm, and Zod's got his horn looks a lot bigger than I remember it being.
It was always big. It's just Miura has sort of a style with like curves where he kind of shapes them in a weird way, so it doesn't always look so big.
Oh, okay.
I would just say though that I'm really glad, Andy, that you did your pitch that you did, just because this is the perfect chapter about it, and I'm glad it got approved, so you can write about it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think that looking at like what they said, what the new team said was, and this is an article I'm going to write hopefully in the next day or so, is they really were trying to capture Miura's sense of visual tracking, the cinematography, if you will, the camera in his head. And what Miura does really well, which is something he took from Akira Kurosawa, who's a Japanese filmmaker, is that he is very good at sort of creating a map of the area in the audience's head, and then having the action, like revolve around that knowledge. He does it in the film Seven Samurai, which is a very famous film, and he does it in a bunch of other films. But anyway, so what that involves, keep in mind, we're in 2022 now, so like that discipline is everywhere. But with Miura, he was always trying to do this thing, and he does it. Like for instance, he does it on the Battle of the Hill of Swords against Nosferatu Zod, and he does it in the in his battle with Slain, with the troll corpses and the trolls. he he creates these set pieces using a very detailed map that he very methodically unfolds over the course of several chapters. And that, in many ways, is like what a mangaka is supposed to. That's the measure of if they're good at storytelling. So what they did.
What is the measure of good storytelling? Can you say that again?
To be able to create the fluid depiction of action within a set space within the reader's mind. That, in complete three-dimensional glory. So when the new team started off and it's just like a big fight and a sequence where the whole island's about to be destroyed, that is in many ways like a perfect homage to Miura's style. Because what Miura does is he has a place, and then he has a conflict taking place within that place, and a bunch of other characters in the periphery, and your knowledge of the placement of all of that and the action that's going on and the stakes and all that stuff is what makes it such a great thing. All of the elements that are taking place within the world in as real a way as the mangaka can imagine and put onto the page is, it creates this sort of unity within the reader's head. So the ability to do that, and I'm sorry for going on, but the ability to do that is what a real mangaka has to be able to do. That's why I like Attack on Titan, because it's a very difficult discipline to figure out, and that guy ended up doing it pretty well. Anyway, I feel like I've been talking forever.
No, it's good, man. It's just immersion. It's something that I think a lot of stories really struggle with across so many different mediums, and it's why some things like do so well. I mean, games like Elder Scrolls Skyrim and Elden Ring are that's my gaming knowledge pushes glasses up, shining through. But just those games are triumphs in immersion. Just helping you feel like the things that you're staring at, these drawings are a real world, and it's putting you in it. And that's something that Miura was so good at that it's kind of helped. It's one of the many things that really made Berserk as popular as it is. And honestly, I think this chapter has just helped me it's helped raise my confidence that Berserk's in good hands.
Yeah, I mean, they're not.
That's also
They don't
why
have
I'm
his- Go on. I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say that, and that's why I'm really happy, actually, that it looks like it's going to be going monthly. Like, while it was exciting at first that could be a weekly thing, it kind of felt like that feels a little too fast. That you should be spending more time on it. So that is like something I'm really excited about, that it's back, or it's going to a monthly or even longer schedule, just because it's something that shouldn't be rushed to get that full effect.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on Berserk 368, guys?
I was thinking when Steve was talking
Rambling about
I
something.
lost it. I totally lost it. Ugh.
No, it's good, man. But I'm really glad we got to check in with Roderick. He's kind of a newer character that hasn't really got, a prominent through line or storyline, but he's been a G. This guy has been helping them out and been a very valuable member, providing them with the ships they needed. And it's every opportunity he's had to leave or do something dirty, he's shined away from it. He's just consistently been a pretty solid dude. And I'm glad that we got to see, kind of him and his forces get a check-in with what's going on the side of the island and getting their perspective. We even got to see a little bit of his crew drunk and happy, especially if the battle with the sea god and all that was so soon. These guys are pretty happy to get to land and have a couple drinks, and we even got to see everyone's favorite Onion Knight. Well, at least a little bit of him. So glad to see he's still there.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, talking about Roderick as well, I mean, the way I kind of view him is he's he just augments Lady Farnese's character, for obvious reasons. It'd be interesting to get more into him as an individual character, because like I was saying, I just see him as a way to boost Lady Farnese's story. 'Cause I'm more invested in her, obviously, but you can definitely bring a lot more to the table if they flesh him out a bit. But I mean, right now, I'm completely happy with him just being there. To
I mean, Azan was such an important character when he first showed up with Farnese, and I've always been very upset that there isn't more done with him. Oh yeah, and I remember what I was going to say. So the ability for them to create the new team to have the kind of figures and beauty and simplicity of Miura's style, even if they are as talented as Miura, is going to take a very, very long time. So some people might criticize the figure work as not being quite as sort of sharp or, suave, I guess you'd call it, as Miura's style, but they're going to get there. Yeah. That was all I was going to say. But yes, going back to what we were actually talking about, I actually really liked Roderick. Roderick was a very compelling character because there aren't too many traditional hero characters that they put into Berserk that aren't very dead at this point.
Right, die almost immediately.
I love it.
So it's nice that Roderick and the crew haven't died horrible deaths at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and
it's a different dynamic to the whole group for sure. Yeah,
and it's kind of nice. I think it's really important, especially for a story like Berserk, where we have dudes that can swing swords the size of a car and people with magic powers and magical items. Roderick just consistently feels like the everyman, and I feel like that's really important to have, just for people, especially for immersion. I think it'd kind of take you out of it if every single character in this had some sort of magical ability. It's really nice to see just the normal dude making good decisions and surviving. But it really helps you kind of, get behind that character's motivations when you can relate to them a lot more. And I feel like once you get magical powers and super strength and stuff like that, it kind of takes away from that a little bit. So I think it's definitely important that they're keeping characters like Roderick in the fray.
And it's also nice to have a character other than a female character who needs to be protected.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that. I mean, because he has no powers, so I mean he's more vulnerable. Obviously, so whenever there's a problem, it's always like, oh my god, someone go over there and protect him, type of thing. It's very refreshing that it's a guy for once, and not Casca or even Lady Farney's. It's just it's a great switch.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, because he's the only one that's got like kind of a viable way out of here. I'm wondering if or how many of the creatures that are still alive on this island and need to escape. If he's going to have a boat full of mythical creatures now, and they're just going to all be along for the ride.
It's going to be like a Noah's Ark situation.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, if you think that, if they ever, when they eventually get off, I mean, do you think that it will be like another voyage like we were seeing earlier, or if it's going to kind of fast forward to something else? I mean, I just ask because, I mean, at least from my perspective, the initial voyage actually to Skellig Island was actually probably my least favorite arc in Berserk so far, and I'm wondering what your guys' opinions is on that. Like, if you think they're going to go for another voyage, or if you disagree about the voyage being the worst part of Berserk, or what? Guys,
I didn't hate it. For me personally, I think, kind of go back to one of my first comments on the podcast was, I think that the next thing we're going to go to is, hopefully, I would love to see Guts and Skull Knight spend more time together. And I think it could be one of those things where Skull Knight's just like, if you go after her, you're going to be playing into Griffith's hands, because he needs to sacrifice both of you to complete his ritual. But no matter what, I'm
be nuts.
No matter what,
he's always the guy that like comes and he's like, I'm here. Oh, now I'm gone. Bye. Good luck.
Well, no, I think what's going to happen is, I think, to kind of finish that statement was, he's like, Griffith needs to sacrifice both of you, so you should not go. But no matter what I'm going to say, you're going to go after her. So let me at least teach you something that will help you on your journey. And possibly Skull Knight, like, either teaches Guts something new, or he gives him something to help him power up. I think it'd be nuts if we kind of find out whatever's keeping Skull Knight alive would empower Guts. So I think it'd be really interesting if Skull Knight somehow had to sacrifice himself to empower Guts. Because Skull Knight's had quite the long journey, and they keep on teasing that he had a very similar journey to Guts' storyline way back when. So I think now, especially because Skull Knight is here, I think he's going to be the bridge to whatever Guts needs to do to get to the climax of this story. If that includes both of them and not the whole band, I think that would be interesting. But I don't see them leaving Ishidoro and Farnes and everybody else. I think they're all going to be going to wherever Skull Knight thinks they need to go to.
I think that you're underestimating how, like, what's about to happen is there's going to be a giant magic thing where all the magic creatures have to, like, fight against these horrible black blob monsters. So I'm going to guess that the Queen of the Fairies is going to be killed, or she's going to sacrifice her life. That's what I think is going to happen.
Oh yeah, I think so too. Especially with the last couple panels of just the island is, for the lack of a better term, effed. The last panel we got was Puck staring at a huge tree-like thing erupting from the middle of the island, and possibly the Fairy Queen, using her power to slow it down or to buy everybody a little bit more time to escape. That seems very likely. But I'm almost wondering, like, would her dying have some sort of effect on all the fairies? Oh man, it would be a bummer if Puck died.
No, I don't.
I don't think that they would kill the one.
Yeah, for you, I hate Puck.
Right. Well, that's kind of the thing too, is they could possibly kill Puck, and they're like, yeah, there's no more room for humor in the rest of this story because Puck is consistently the comedic relief.
Well, and that's what's crazy. Is like ever since Studio Gaga came in, like he has been a very serious character. Like I was just thinking that when I was reading this chapter, actually, it was like, I haven't been hating Puck for like this entire time because he's actually like looking at things all sinister. Like it's like, oh my god, what's coming? He's like the heralder of doom. Like it's kind of Puck
is a very sort of present character. I mean, I remember reading the series and thinking like, wow, Puck is very present through most of it. So I would say that there's something deceptively important about him, that we don't really know.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, like to give him like an actual purpose rather than just being the annoying little fairy guy.
I really enjoyed seeing his butt in the final panel there. That was just so amazing.
Yeah, he's been working out.
Yeah.
While you guys were talking about the how the main elf would sacrifice herself, something I think would be interesting is just because before Miora's death there was that whole thing where they talked about how Shirk's mistress Flora, she was originally on Elfheim, but then she ended up doing some really big taboo thing that ended up getting her exiled. And what's interesting, like, because right now, she had a physical death, but now she changed into like one of those daemon. It would be interesting if she that part of her. I'm trying to remember, like, it's like the guiding spirit that she's become ends up helping them in some way to kind of like restore her, her standing on Elfheim. Because I always thought that was interesting. Like they just brought it up randomly. It's like, oh yeah, did you guys know my mistress Flora? And they're like, yeah, she did something bad, so we had to kick her out. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You kind of need to see that come full circle somehow.
Another person that is on this island that I'm very curious. They can't just off screen this person is the blacksmith that. He created the armor, and he knows a lot of stuff, and that we gotta see what's going on with that guy too. So
he could make something for Guts.
He could die immediately.
Yeah, or he could get off screen and we never see him again. Yep. But no, I think him, the blacksmith, and Guts, him and Skull Knight. That they could possibly create some sort of a new weapon that they're gonna need, but I think Skull Knight's got a big thing to play, especially with him being there, and it looks like we got a new chapter September 9th, so we'll definitely be talking about it on a Mega Manga Mondays. But anything else about this chapter you guys want to talk about?
I just want to see more of Molda. I don't know if you guys remember. She was the.
Which one's she?
She was one of the witches from Elfheim. Who?
Oh, is that the sexy witch?
Yeah. She's the one who's like, where she's like she's an outsider, and she ended up like attaching herself to Shirk. Like they had that really great dynamic, and I kind of want to bring that back. I mean, not just because she's the sexy witch, but I thought that she was a lot of fun, and that her connection with Shirk was kind of interesting.
I like the sexy witch too. Don't worry.
It was kind of hard to follow because they kept changing her proportions, like with every chapter.
Oh, did they? Were they? I didn't even notice that.
Oh, absolutely. Like I think when they first introduced her, she was quite buxom. And I think in the last couple chapters we saw, we're just like, oh, okay, they made her more more realistic. But Yeah,
I'm going to check that out. I hadn't even realized that.
yes, I too might need to check that out again. Uh, uh, but yeah, that was a really fun dynamic. I thought, especially like having, uh, kind of a know-it-all witch. I really, really enjoyed the dynamic of like, oh man, we've been training in magic for like decades, and here you are doing
Yeah.
stuff without having to use like summoning circles or anything like that, and just the whole like, well, yes, having to practice in the middle of battle has made us have to accomplish things that normal training wouldn't have done. So I mean, we have this whole like civilization of witches and elves, and it's all going in the toilet, and I'm really hoping that all of them aren't gonna swirl into the hole. I'm hoping that we get to see a good amount of them travel together, but I almost see our group escaping on the island with everybody else, but then I see our group getting smaller. I would be very disappointed and surprised if Guts broke off and just went with Skull Knight. I think Farnes and Ishidoro and everybody are going to separate from this fleet, Roderick's fleet, and go to the next island to find the One Piece. I mean, help them battle.
I've been waiting for that. I've been waiting.
Well, we keep talking about what's the next island we're all going to. I get my streams crossed sometimes. But yeah, I'm hoping we get to see some more next time. I'm kind of ready to get off this island, but I think especially with it falling apart now, we're gonna gonna get to see the fates of the important characters we brought up.
Day. They were literally there for like 1 or 2 days. Like I think it was 1 day.
Well, yeah, and they
had
very quickly brought doom with them, which is pretty typical Berserk. I mean, it's something that Guts has warned every single person that came up to him, and they're like, "Hey, you want to travel with us?" He's like, "No, you shouldn't be with me because bad stuff happens around me." And that.
To respond to what you were going to say, I think the party is going to get bigger. I think that the people who all the people who they met before are going to come back.
Yeah, I hope so. I
hope so. Yeah, I'm hoping that they're not like, oh, we don't have time to go back for them. They're all doomed. Like, no, let's see what the witches are doing, and let's have some of them escape, please.
Oh yeah, one observation. My final observation of the episode. I think that as they're flying away, and Griffith is creepily holding Casca. You see Casca open her eyes, and then you see Guts, like sort of her perspective of Guts sort of looking up. And I think that's the first time she's been able to look at Guts and not be like horrified. Even though
is that from her perspective?
Yeah, I think that's from her perspective.
Oh, that would be dope. Yeah. I'm gonna need to read that now.
That's like that was like a nice little touch. So she'll know somewhere that he was actually trying to save her. Just that little,
because he opened her eyes.
Yeah, I didn't notice her eyes were barely opened there.
Oh,
but yeah, that's a great take, man. Great observation.
I love that.
Well, yeah. I don't know. That's
just twist the knife, Studio Gaga.
Yeah. Well, it's it's that little bit of information that she needs to be able to make possibly a big future decision. So,
and the image is blurred too around the edges because her eyes aren't fully open. So yeah, oh, that's awesome.
Well, Steven, any final thoughts on Berserk 368, man?
No, I want to end on that because that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun talking Berserk, guys. As we said, it seems like the manga is going to a monthly release schedule So we'll be definitely talking more Berserk as it's coming out. But thanks for listening to Mega Manga Mondays. We'll go ahead and move into plugs and recommendations. I'm Jason Hahn. I'm a writer for ScreenRant.com. Please check out Screen Rant. I do a lot of video game related news and previews and starting to dabble in some reviews. But my buddies here write for the comics section and write some fantastic and very introspective articles about Marvel, DC, and all kinds of mangas. So definitely check it out. I'm also have my own YouTube channel called Honzy and Friends. I like to stream games. I'm currently playing God of War on the PlayStation 5, and it's lovely. I'm getting really close to the end, and we're fighting some Valkyries, getting stomped on a lot by a bunch of very tall women. So that's cool. If that's your kind of thing, check out Honzy and Friends. I also do comedic let's play videos with friends and some pretty funny edits and stuff in there. Also follow Mega Manga Mondays on Twitter at Manga Mondays. You'll get consistent updates on when we have new episodes coming out. But we also do podcasts for series like One Piece, Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Super, all kinds of stuff. So please check that out. Steven, how about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that I started reading this new webtoon. Well, it's not new, but for me, Exorcism Records' Journey to the West. And what gets me about it, I mean, it's a cool story, but the artwork is absolutely incredible. It's like... It's hard to describe it. It's like a Japanese painting, like with all the colors and stuff, and it looks like that it's actually like popping out at you. That it's not just painted like regularly. Like there's actually like I don't know. It's great. You just check it out. It's hard to explain. Exorcism Records, Journey to the West. The artwork is absolutely breathtaking. I would definitely recommend that.
Are you reading that on Manga Plus?
No. This is I'm reading it on a separate manga site.
Oh, okay. Check out I'll go ahead and have the title of that with the author in the description. So check that out.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of the word, but like when artists draw, like sometimes like you can see like the contours, like things are popping out of it. It's pretty fascinating the way that it is. And then I'm also trying out on the new Manga Up app, which is owned by the same company or the publisher that published Full Metal Alchemist.
Square Enix.
Yeah. I'm trying like some of their new series. One of them is really fun. Devil in Song. It's basically a comedy about this kid where the children are choir boys, sing music to destroy evil demons, and right now there's this little kid who can't sing, and he's chained up in like an abandoned church to like lure out evil demons to kill. So he's basically being used as bait, but then he ends up forming a relationship with a demon, and it's a lot of fun. Devil in Song, that's a good one too. So
also sounds like the beginning of Chainsaw Man, which is another series we also talk about on Mega Manga Mondays. But Andrew, how about you, man? Any plugs or recommendations today?
Yeah, I'm gonna recommend Better Call Saul.
Oh my god!
Oh, wow, Better Call Saul.
Oh yeah,
everyone. I mean, like, I know that people think that it's slow and like there isn't a point to it, and like it's playing into like this idea of being a superfluous spin-off. It is not.
No.
It is a much more sort of realistic and human story than Breaking Bad. And I think that I can understand why people feel like the ultimate slowness of it and the lack of fan service.
I can't.
Like I think that it's a better show than Breaking Bad, in a lot of ways.
That's a hot take. I love Better Call Saul, and final episode is coming out this coming Monday, and
Don't say stuff. I'm pretty far behind, so.
Oh yeah, I won't be spoiling things. Obviously, I also can't recommend it enough. The writers are just brilliant. It's not quite as like explosive, I'd say, as like Breaking Bad. There's a lot of moments in Better Call Saul, especially after watching Breaking Bad, where you feel like just something awful could happen at any moment. Because it's the same crew, it's a lot of the same writers, and they're just so good at creating intense, compelling characters, and they've really, really outdone themselves, especially with this last season. Yeah, me and one of my buddies I do Honzy and Friends with watch that as soon as we can Monday nights, and we're very excited for the finale. Yeah, check out Better Call Saul, and Breaking Bad also gets my recommendation. Bob Odenkirk and especially Rhea Seehorn, I think is her name, are just they deserve all the awards. Check out Better Call Saul. That will do it for our episode of Berserk 368 for Mega Manga Mondays.
Oh yeah, and one thing. Oh yeah, and I'm working on another. I'm working on another. It's about drugs, obviously. Essay.
Oh, very cool.
I mean, nobody's going to read it, but I just thought I would tell you.
Oh no, I'll have links to that in the description as well. Is it covering new music?
Well, I mean, it's covering the song.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's covering a song called "I've Made Up My Mind to Give Myself to You," which is off Bob Dylan's 2020 album, I think it was, or 2021 album.
Oh wow.
Rough and Rowdy Ways. Sorry, I had to fiddle with the microphone there for a second.
No problem, man. I'll have that information in the description. I hope you guys will check that out as well. But it's been a lot of fun talking Berserk with you guys, and I look forward to the next one. But thanks for your time, and thanks for listening.